throwaway so my family doesn't connect this to my main. I'm a 23-year-old child-free woman. I don't know if this is needed for the story. And my sister is 30 with a 4-year-old son. She's a single mom, ex-husband is not in the picture, and has no contact with her or the kid. I'm going to get straight to the point. That kid is a nightmare to be around. It's not his fault, it's my sister's fault. He very clearly has behavioral and mental health disorders, like even at his young age. However, my sister was and is very ableist and refuses to accept that her son has problems. The kid screams bloody murder whenever something doesn't slightly go his way, screams and cries when he's overwhelmed, has meltdowns to certain sounds and textures. Like I said, I don't blame the kid for these issues, but my sister refusing to get him treatment or help makes the kid a nightmare to be around. So, as a result, I don't babysit the kid. When my sister asks, more like demands, I do so. This causes a lot of fights between us and our family. I have a friend, 23, who's married to a wonderful lady, age 22, and they have a baby boy together who just turned 1. Yes, they got married and had him young, but it's not my place to judge them. This past weekend, they asked me to babysit for them, and I agreed for a few reasons. Their kid is calm, well-behaved, and a general good kid. Toddler, baby to be around. I love babysitting him. Also, they asked me nicely and understood that I might say no because I'm child-free. They were polite about their request. A thing about me is that if you ask me to do something politely, even if it's something I wouldn't usually agree to, I'd probably do it because you were nice and polite. So for these reasons, I happily agreed to babysit the boy. My sister also asked me to babysit her son that day so she could have a day to herself, and I refused and told her I was already babysitting for my friends. She was pissed, to say the least. She said a few comments about how I was an ass and not a good sister, but I thought she dropped it after that. This past weekend, while I was watching the baby, my sister started banging on my door. I looked through the window and saw that she had her kid and a care bag with her, and I knew she was trying to drop him off and make me babysit. She was banging on the door, yelling at me and calling me heartless and a baby hater, while I was holding a baby, ironically, and that I better open up and do my sisterly duties. I put the baby in a different room to keep him from getting scared by the noise and told my sister through the window to leave, or I would call the cops. She started cursing for a solid 5 minutes before she finally left. I had the whole thing on my doorbell camera and sent it to the family group chat. Surprisingly, my whole family is on my sister's side. She keeps arguing with me about how I'd rather babysit a kid not even related to me over my nephew. I reminded her that her kid is a nightmare to be around, but she keeps saying that for family you help out. My sister has been cold since, and keeps sending me text messages to provoke me into arguing with her more. She's also started saying some pretty awkward and nasty things towards my friend's wife. My friend's wife is on the spectrum and has BPD, and my sister keeps saying that she should have been sterilized and never should have passed her issues to her kid. By the way, her kid has shown none of the signs that autistic infants usually show, so I don't know what my sister is on. I will admit that I do feel a bit guilty because I never considered babysitting my nephew, but I jumped at the opportunity to babysit my friend's kid. My sister, dad, mom, and brother are all calling me an asshole and saying that I'm just using the CF label to avoid family responsibility. I need advice on how to get my family to see my perspective on this. How can I explain to them that the issue isn't the idea of babysitting, but it's the behavior of the kid? Relevant comments. There were lots, but I tried to include a sampling. Commenter. Just ignore your sister, maybe even block her. She isn't entitled to you as a babysitter. As for your family, black kettle them. So, when are you babysitting sister kiddo since family should care for family? Original poster responded, my brother, 33, which I should have mentioned, has a wife and kids so he can't babysit. And my parents are in their early mid-60s, also probably should have mentioned, and claim to be too old to do so. I'm the youngest and was a whoops baby my parents had in their 40s by chance. Because of my young age and the fact I'm not married and don't have kids, they keep saying I'm the perfect person to babysit. Because I have nothing to do, not even taking into consideration that I have a job and friends of my own. Why can't your brother take care of him if he already has experience with his own kids? Original poster responded, in the words of my family, he already has his own family responsibility, you have none. Yes, that's pretty much always their response to when I ask, why can't my brother babysit the kid? My brother also deep down knows the kid is a nightmare, even as much as he tries to ignore it along with my sister and parents. To a different commenter, his kids don't like spending time with her kid because he's had violent meltdowns and hurt them before. The kids avoid that boy like the plague. I don't blame any of the kids in that situation. My sister's son clearly has behavioral and/or mental issues that cause him to react violently to overstimulation, which is not his fault. He needs help so he can develop ways of controlling his meltdowns, I don't know if that's the right phrase, and keep his emotions in check. My brother's kids, while mature for their age, are kids and don't fully understand why he acts the way he does, and therefore harbor resentment and dislike towards him. I feel bad for all the kids involved. Nobody is winning. Mute the group chat and contact experts for advice for your nephew. I've muted the group chat, and I know this is a me issue, but I can't help but check on it every few hours and feel bad about causing a fight. I'm soft, I know. As for my nephew, I don't mean to sound rude, but what good would that do? Yes, I can have an expert weigh in their opinion, but at the end of the day, my sister won't get him help. So what would be the point? Once again, I don't mean to be rude. Commenter, part of a longer comment. If she plans to send her child to public school, her neglect will become extremely obvious when he is unable to manage himself, and she tells mandated reporters she refuses to get him the help he needs. Original poster responded, "This issue already came up. He's close to turning 5, and last school year he was supposed to be in preschool. He was enrolled, and of course the teachers noticed his issues right away, and tried to convince my sister to sign him up for the SPED program in the preschool, and for behavioral therapy. She outright refused, went off on them, and pulled her kid from the program. He's going to start kindergarten in the fall, and my sister said if they insult her son, she'll pull him out and homeschool him. I feel bad for my nephew because it's not his fault he was born with these issues that cause him to act out when he gets overwhelmed. I sincerely hope my sister wakes up and gets him help, or that once he grows up, he'll get help himself." Commenter, you need to be honest with your family about what a nightmare the child is. Ask them to babysit. If they disagree, then block the idiots. Original poster responded, "They know the child is a nightmare. They keep trying to pretend he's not and ignore the issue, but they know. They don't want to piss my sister off by mentioning it, as she goes nuclear with insults and fights whenever someone brings it up. I love my family, I love my nephew, and I love my sister, but it is so wrong to just ignore the issues he has. He needs help. There's something wrong in his head. I'm not saying that to be mean or cruel or ableist in any form, but it's the truth." Original poster responds to a longer comment. I really hope I wasn't offensive with my wording. It feels wrong to say, this kid has things wrong with him in the head, or he's messed up in the head. But I genuinely don't know how else to describe it. I really don't phrase it that way to be mean or ableist or any kind of ist or phobic, but that's the only way I can think of to describe it without a diagnosis. I don't know how much help Child Protective Services would be. We live in a small town in the South. I don't even know if Child Protective Services has an office down in our town. District. The nearest town over is a rundown city with a high crime rate, child abandonment rate, and drug use rate. So I can imagine that the Child Protective Services offices there are probably overwhelmed. Sounds like she has mental health issues too. I don't want to speculate, but I don't think she does. I think she's just ableist towards mental health disorders specifically. I'm not saying that mentally ill people can't also be prejudiced towards others with disorders and mental illnesses, but she doesn't show any signs of having any mental illness, so I don't think she has any. I could always be wrong, as I'm not a therapist or doctor, but this is just my perspective from growing up with her. Commenter. Maybe when he's too much for everyone else in your family and she really has no help at all, she will take steps to get her son the guidance he needs. Original poster responded, "My parents used to try and tell her this when he was smaller toddler and showing these behaviors. They were more tame them and have escalated as he got older. She blew up, said that if they kept insulting her kid, she wouldn't let them see him again. Obviously, I can't imagine the position that put my parents in. They love their children and grandchildren, so I can imagine a threat like that would make them cave. The sister's point of view, the problem is my sister doesn't want him to be diagnosed with anything. She has this belief that kids are overdiagnosed as a way for pharmaceutical companies and hospitals to get more money out of parents and insurance companies. And I agree to an extent that we do have an issue of over-medicalization in our country, and that we tend to slap pills and medication over the problem rather than find a way to actually resolve it. However, that doesn't mean I think that medication isn't the solution in some cases. I don't know what would help my nephew, but I'm pretty sure that doing nothing is worse for him. Original posters family and their views. My parents and brother don't share the same beliefs about mental illness that she does, and I was in no way raised in any way that could even remotely cause that belief. I'm still shocked, angry, and horrified that she said that about my friend's wife. I almost feel like I need to address it in itself. She literally said my friend should be sterilized and prevented from having kids because she has a mental illness. I can't even wrap my mind around how cruel someone can be to say that a woman who's always wanted to be a mom and is a great mom should be sterilized simply because she has a mental illness. A few last clarifications. My sister makes enough money to live comfortably with her and her son. Hiring a sitter would have put a bit of a strain on that. They're in that financial bracket where they are comfortable, but they can't afford expensive things or afford to pay for extra things. I guess you could say they are lower middle class. According to them, they are. Parents being too old. My mom retired early from a state job and has a part-time easy job, and my dad is still working a different state job for a few more years. My sister's ex isn't the dad. My sister has red-brown hair. Her husband had brown hair. Kid came out with very light blonde hair. My family didn't see this as odd because I have a very light, white-looking blonde hair color, and one of my nieces also has blonde hair, so we just figured my sister carried the recessive gene. Husband wasn't suspicious of anything either until sister broke down in a panic at the blonde hair and confessed that while they had been a short break after a fight, she had slept around a bit. Husband left because he didn't agree to opening the marriage during the break and didn't sign the birth certificate. Sister has no idea who the father is and has no way to get in contact with any of the guys she slept with. 3 days later. So, crap has hit the fan. My original post was about 3 days ago, and ever since that post, my sister's behavior escalated. I tried to talk to her about getting help for my nephew, and she kept screaming at me every time I brought it up. She said a lot of derogatory terms towards people with mental illnesses and mental disabilities, terms I won't repeat here. That wasn't the only escalation. She was at my door several times a day starting 2 days ago, the day after I made my original post. Banging on my door, screaming, crying, cursing, the works. She brought my nephew each time, and he always looked so confused and defeated. He was too tired to react or melt down like he normally does around loud noises. And it broke my heart to see that on my doorbell camera. I wasn't at my house. I was crashing with my friend and his wife. I took the advice of a commenter who said to put some physical distance between me and my sister. They said I was free to stay as long as I wanted, as long as I helped out with some house chores and childcare while I stayed, which I thought was more than fair. So I'm staying in their guest room currently. I'm still with them, even though my sister isn't much of a problem. Many will be glad to know that my sister won't have parental rights over my nephew soon. She dropped him off at a safe haven site in the middle of the night. Totally a fun phone call to wake up at 2 in the morning, and my nephew is currently with my parents. Social services placed him with my parents, and he's set to have mandatory therapy. In my state, don't know if it's different in others. If a child is abandoned in any way, safe haven or not, a physical and mental health examination is done. Other than being a little bit underweight, my nephew was physically healthy. He wasn't being physically abused like a few people were worried, but it was obvious he needed mental health, so he'll be starting therapy sessions soon, as mandated by a caseworker. We are not looking for my sister. After she dropped her son off, she left. She had quit her job a few weeks back, sold her car, and even her house a few weeks ago, and had been renting a place, so this was planned. In my personal opinion, she planned to abandon her son the day I was babysitting my friend's baby, which is why she had such a nuclear reaction. She did leave a note saying she can't do it anymore, she met someone, and that she doesn't want to be a mom to my nephew anymore. In her note, she said she deserves a normal kid and not a burden like my nephew. I seriously hope that my sister doesn't have any more kids with this mystery person she's referencing, but it seems like she's running off to start a new life and family. She still has 30 days to reclaim rights over my nephew, but it doesn't look like she'll do that. Time will tell. Like I said, I'm still with my friends because I was worried my sister would do something. My parents and brother have also been blowing up my phone and coming to my house, switching between apologies and blaming me for this. They think that maybe if I babysat that day, she wouldn't have done this. But I think she wanted me to babysit so she could do this. I'm not mad at them for blaming me. I understand that my sister is still their family, and they're rightfully in shock and want someone to blame. They're human, and I know humans can be cruel sometimes while going through shock and grief. So, yeah, that's life right now. I'm currently sitting on the couch with my friend's baby while my friend is at work and his wife does a quick grocery run. She was going to take the baby, but I insisted on watching him so she didn't have to hassle with the car seat in the very stormy weather we have in our area right now. This update is all over the place. I feel like I'm rambling. There's still a lot of unknown stuff regarding my sister and nephew, but for now, this is the update. I don't know if I'll post more regarding this situation. My friend's wife is telling me I should relax and just not think about anything relating to this until I'm more level-headed, but I don't think that's possible. Relevant comments. Commenter. Your sister clearly has her own severe mental health issues she's refusing to acknowledge. As screwed up as it might have been, this is best for your nephew. Also, I didn't know you could just drop off a child of any age at a place like that. I thought any child over 2 couldn't be released like that. Original poster responded, I don't know my state laws, so I don't know. Because I'm not directly involved in the case, I'm not getting updates. When I say we are not looking for her, I mean me and my family. Police could be looking for her, but I'm out of the loop on this whole case new update. My sister abandoned her 5-year-old son a little less than 2 weeks ago and fled. Police are looking for her, but she hasn't been found yet. My nephew is with my parents and is in therapy. When that first happened, my parents were quick to blame me because I had refused to babysit the kid in the past and the weekend before my sister ultimately abandoned him. They think had I babysat him that day, she wouldn't have fled. I've been staying with my friends since then, and oh my God, it's chilly here. They're young parents with a baby, and yet it's chill here. Everyone is happy. They talk things out when there are issues. They work together. I've met both parents of my friends, and they're nice and polite. Obviously, I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but I have seen some bickering, and they always find a way to resolve it. Growing up, my parents always argued a lot. My siblings were always loud and cruel to each other at times, and there always had to be someone to blame. If you were the person who was blamed, you were insulted and shunned for a while. Then they would apologize. You were always expected to forgive and forget. My parents are trying to apologize to me about their blowout at me regarding my sister, and I can understand their initial feelings. I'm willing to forgive, but I know my family will also expect me to forget. But I can't forget. I don't think I can forget this whole situation. So I'm wondering if I would be the asshole if I chose to forgive them, but refused to forget this whole thing. Some comments below someone said, I personally hate forgive and forget. I may forgive you, but I'm not going to forget you hurt me, and I am going to limit your opportunity to hurt me again. Forgiveness is not a magic reset button. It just means you let go of the anger and resentment and move forward. It doesn't mean things will go back to exactly the way they were before. Somebody said, as the parent of a kid that had violently angry meltdowns at a young age, this whole thing breaks my heart. Mine was eventually diagnosed as ASD level 1 with a giant helping of ADHD, and is now the best going into high schooler you could hope for. And going into the best school in our district. In 2nd grade, he was trashing classrooms and threatening to take police officers' guns in order to shoot everyone. Now, the worst thing he does is not clean his room or do his schoolwork. My husband, not his bio dad, gets so stressed about these things sometimes, and I'm like, this is amazing. Normal kid crap is what I begged the universe for when I was ready to lose it myself. Early intervention is key in helping these kids learn healthy ways to express their needs and desires, ways to calm down and understand who they are and why. They're super damn resistant, so it takes a Herculean effort to teach them these things. or they just mature enough to figure it out themselves, whatever. I think a loving, supportive family is almost equally important for the child and parents. Original poster has already tried so hard to get her whole family to understand that her nephew needs help. I don't think she should even forgive them at this point. They need to do right by the grandchild now in their care because they raised a giant asshole, continue to apologize, and probably get to a therapist themselves. Maybe then forgiveness is on the table. Never forget, though, never.